Joseph William Smith was the epitome of suburban tranquility, a familiar face on Elm Street in Maryland, known for his meticulously manicured lawn and occasional friendly wave. He'd been a fixture here since 2002, when he bought the modest two-story house with his late wife, Elizabeth. Their daughter, Emily, had moved out years ago to attend college, leaving Joseph alone in their once thriving family home. As time passed, neighbors grew accustomed to Joseph's quirks, his early morning bird watching sessions, the peculiar aroma wafting from his backyard garden, and his occasional late-night conversations with, well, someone. It was never quite clear who he was talking to, but it seemed harmless enough. In fact, many residents found him endearing, a gentle soul who always lent a helping hand or two. But beneath this fade of normalcy, something sinister brewed. For over 20 years, Joseph had been concealing a dark secret one that would soon shatter the quiet lives of his neighbors and expose the lies he'd skillfully woven into their community's fabric. It wasn't until Emily returned to Elm Street in 2022, after her mother's passing, that the first cracks began to show. At first, it was just a nagging feeling, a sense that something was off about her father's behavior. But as she delved deeper, Emily discovered disturbing evidence that would turn their quiet suburban street into a battleground for truth and justice. The once peaceful Elm Street would soon be transformed into a hotbed of intrigue, fueled by the explosive revelation: Joseph William Smith, your friendly neighborhood neighbor, was hiding something big. Joseph William Smith had been living on Elm Street for over 2 decades, a fixture in the community that seemed almost too good to be true. On the surface, he was the perfect neighbor, always eager to lend a helping hand and always impeccably dressed. His immaculate lawn, precision mowed every Saturday morning without fail, was a testament to his dedication to the finer things in life. But as time went on, subtle cracks began to appear in Smith's fade. Residents started noticing that he'd become increasingly reclusive, rarely venturing out of his house except for odd, late-night excursions. The once friendly neighbor would often stare at his garden with an unnerving intensity, muttering to himself about the project and getting it done. In 2003, a series of strange occurrences started plaguing the neighborhood. Windows were found shattered, trash cans overturned, and an eerie feeling of being watched began to settle over the residents. When questioned by local authorities, Smith would always seem evasive, almost guilty. Yet he'd always managed to talk his way out of suspicion. Rumors started circulating about a mysterious figure seen lurking around Smith's property at night, a figure that bore an uncanny resemblance to Smith himself. Some speculated it was just a copycat or a prankster, but the unnerving feeling persisted. Elm Street residents began to whisper among themselves about the watcher and the eerie connection they seemed to have with Joseph William Smith. As the years went by, Smith's behavior only grew more erratic. He'd often be seen pacing around his property under the cover of darkness, muttering to himself in hushed tones. Some reported hearing disembodied voices emanating from his house late at night, whispers that seemed to carry on the wind like an otherworldly presence. Despite these warning signs, no one suspected the true extent of Smith's dark secret. For over 2 decades, he'd been hiding a shocking truth, one that would shatter the very fabric of the community and send shockwaves through the quiet streets of Elm Street. He'd would you show that I showed you to view to view I view to view you to how view how go view to how go you can As the years went by, whispers about Joseph William Smith's peculiar behavior began to circulate among the Elm Street residents. They'd often report strange noises emanating from his residence late at night, and some even claimed to have seen him pacing back and forth in front of his house at odd hours. At first, these incidents were dismissed as mere eccentricity, but as they continued to escalate, suspicions grew. In 2010, a local homeowner association meeting was convened to discuss the growing concerns about Smith's behavior. Several residents expressed their worries aloud, citing instances of loud shouting and unexplained door slamming in the dead of night. Smith himself attended the meeting, displaying an air of nonchalance that only added fuel to the speculation. One resident, a quiet but observant woman named Susan Jenkins, had been keeping a meticulous record of the disturbances. She documented no fewer than 17 instances of unusual activity between January and March 2010 alone. Her detailed notes revealed a disturbing pattern. All incidents occurred when Smith's wife, Margaret, was away from home. As investigators dug deeper into Smith's past, they discovered that his family had moved to Elm Street in 1998. Since then, Joseph and Margaret had been living separately for extended periods of time, often without explanation. It became clear that something was amiss behind closed doors, but the exact nature of their arrangement remained a mystery. Rumors about Smith's troubled history began to surface, hinting at a possible connection to a notorious crime case from 20 years prior. The more the police investigated, the more they realized that Joseph William Smith was hiding something, and it would change everything. As the investigation unfolds, it becomes clear that Joseph William Smith's peculiar behavior was a carefully constructed facade. For over 2 decades, he presented himself as a model citizen, hosting neighborhood gatherings and even serving on the local homeowners association. However, beneath this veneer of normalcy, a darker reality existed. Smith's neighbors reported hearing strange noises emanating from his residence late at night, with some describing sounds akin to screams or muffled cries for help. These reports were dismissed as mere paranoia by authorities, but it now appears that they were, in fact, accurate. Further investigation reveals that Smith had been hiding a dark secret. He was using his home as a makeshift laboratory for conducting experiments on unsuspecting victims. The neighbors who reported the strange noises had unknowingly stumbled upon evidence of Smith's sinister activities. As detectives dig deeper, they uncover a trail of clues pointing to at least 15 confirmed cases of kidnapping and human experimentation. The implications are staggering. For 2 decades, Smith was able to operate with impunity, taking advantage of his charm and community involvement to silence any potential whistleblowers. The sheer scope of his crimes raises questions about the effectiveness of law enforcement in suburban areas and the ability of neighbours to suspect the presence of such a predator living among them. Moreover, this